I bow to all the seekers of truth. It has to be understood that truth, what we know through our mental capacity, is not the truth. Because mind itself is a myth. We have created it. As we have created computers, we have created our myth also. Through our conditioning and through our ego. Beyond it is the reality. So if we have to know the absolute truth, something has to happen. We have to evolve into a higher realm of existence, of consciousness. You have been already told about the subtle system that you have. You all have it. You are the owner of it. And you have every right to achieve that state of consciousness, which in the Zen system call it as Satori. In every system they have something, they call it some name, like the Islam calls it Wali. Some call it Sufi. In the realm of reality, when we are not, we have problems. Because we fight for unreal things. We think of unreal things as real and accept. For example, when the English lost the match, I mean, one party has to win. Either this or that. But they were so much identified with it, which was falsehood. They were not playing, they were not players, that they were English, all right, but there was no war going on. See, the myth about it is this, that we get identified with things which are themselves not real. And all these problems that we see of anger, which is violence after all, or the attachments we have, identifications we have, then the lust and greed and all kinds of problems that we see in every country is due to our imperfection. It is due to our ignorance about reality, while reality is beautiful. And we have to enter into that realm. That is what is seeking for. The other day I was reading a book of a boy who was an athlete and who went through the Zen system of training. And it was so hard and hazardous that I thought very few would accept such a situation. Very few. Might have been in those days, there were seekers of that quality that they worked it out. But now there's a system available for you. The knowledge that they gave you about the subtle system we have is a fact. But if it is fact or not, you should first verify. Don't just believe me or believe what he has said it. You should verify if it is there within us, the subtle system of our ascent. I knew about this since my childhood. But I didn't know how to explain to people because I found people have no idea about it, even in India. Traditionally in India we had three types of seekings. One was through Vedas. Even the first stanza of Vedas says that if you do not know yourself by reading or by chanting these mantras, it is useless. Then the second seeking, second style of seeking was that of bhakti. Is you to sing the name of God, or you can pray to God. Even great people like Gyanadeva didn't know what to do. So they also said it is better you do bhakti, bhakti of God. Because the time had not come perhaps to give self-realization, or maybe the people were not prepared to get it. But in the center we had another great movement which is called as Nathpanthis. They say it came from Shiva, but whatever it is, it came from Adinath and these people and got diverted into many types. But those who remained in the middle, one of them was, we should say, was called Gahaninath. And his disciple was Nivruttinath, the elder brother of Gyanadeva. It is amazing if you read anything about them. They know all about chakras, they know all about this, all three channels, everything they knew thousands of years back. Then somehow or other, they didn't tell people. They kept the knowledge to themselves. I can't say why they did it, but they did. Ultimately, Gyanadeva took permission of his guru, Nivruttinath, and said that let me tell you, at least let me tell others. You allow me, because people should know what works it out. So he wrote about Kundalini. But if you read these ancient books, you'll be amazed that the whole thing was described in those books, how you get your realization, and how then we have those centers which are to be enlightened, what problems come in. But the method they employed for achieving it was really hazardous again. I don't know why they had to do it, but they did it. They were all unmarried people and very strict with themselves, and they had to lead a life very secluded from the society. This was really a very difficult type of ascent they had. When I read about them, I really feel very extremely sad that all these great people who were seeking had to go through such horrible, strenuous turmoil for days together, and then some of them got realization. But you are lucky people, I should say, to be born at this time. This is a special time, very special time, which is described in all the books, all the scriptures, as the last judgment. Now, if you start deciding about it through your mental capacity, you cannot achieve anything. Because you have only two agencies. One is your conditioning, another is your ego. So, one has to rely on the natural gifts that we have, is that of this Kundalini, and she is your individual mother. She doesn't want to torture you. She doesn't want in any way to give you any pains whatsoever. Also, there are some books written that Kundalini means it is something horrible and it can kill you, it will do all these things. All these years now, I've been working on it. I've never seen anybody getting into trouble. But if you are in trouble, you get out of it. So all these myths were created for Kundalini also later on, so that people should not take to reality. But all this knowledge was somehow lost. Though Gyanadeva had mentioned in his book that in the 6th chapter he said that one should seek through the awakening of Kundalini. But people said, no, this is no good, we are not going to have it. Because when those people who organize the religion, become in charge of the religion. Actually, you cannot organize. You cannot organize religion. And once they start organizing it, you see, they put their own norms on people who are seeking. So they said, no, this is something is not allowed. Because they couldn't raise the Kundalini maybe. But in the 16th century in India, suddenly so many realized souls were born, saints were born. Perhaps they might have been Nathpanthis who had died before, maybe they have taken the birth. So many of them. And they started understanding each other. Because they were one with reality. Everybody was feeling the same thing about each other. There are many examples of that. First of all, I would say Namadeva in Maharashtra. He was a tailor. And he went to see one pitcher, man who makes pitchers, you see. A potter you can call him. And when we went and saw this fellow standing and trampling over the clay, he just stood up. And the sentence he has said is so remarkable. He said, I came here to see the formless, that is the vibrations or Chaitanya they call it. But I see it in you in person. It is in person I see it. This kind of appreciation is only possible between people who are realized souls. Because they understand each other. Those who don't understand, you see, have different ideas, different things. Now they say that we must have peace. How can you have peace? One is going to the right direction, another is going to the left direction, another is going in the middle somewhere, hanging. Everybody thinks they are right. Whatever they are doing is right. But what is the outcome of it? Nobody is peaceful within. They are fighting for things which has no meaning at all in life. There are many people who are fighting in the name of God. I mean, this is the worst that one can do, stupid thing. How can you kill each other in the name of God? How can? But is happening, is accepted, and not only but is regarded as religion. Like this whole world is full of violent people, I should say minimum disturbed people. Families are disturbed and children are disturbed and everybody, as if the whole Mother Earth is shaking and everybody is disturbed. By saying that we should have peace, you cannot have. By talking about it, you cannot have. Because I have seen some people who got peace awards. There is no peace within. Only by transformation of human beings, by evolving them, taking them into this realm of peaceful existence of reality, you can bring peace. Everybody wants peace. But even if you want, you should genuinely ask for it. If you are going to decide it mentally, you cannot. Mentally, everybody differs. Everybody has an opinion for everything. Like they will say, now they've come here. I mean, the modern mind is like this. It always tries to run away from the truth. Always. I'll give you a simple example. If I tell somebody that please telephone to such and such gentleman, immediately the other person will say, he may not be there, he might have gone to his office. Today is Sunday, how can he go to his office? All right, then he might be. I said, why don't you telephone first? Why do you react? First telephone, fine, if the person is there or not. But that is not possible because the mind is all the time wobbling, giving answers and reacting. Whatever you do, there's reaction. It can also say now, why so many flowers? I never asked them, but they did put it also. I don't know whom to be blamed, who's the victim. But they might say so. They can have objection to everything. But one thing is that, why don't you understand that you are not at peace with yourself, unless and until you are yourself at peace. You cannot find faults with others. You cannot judge others. Why are you not at peace with yourself? This is a thing one should understand. Because you are not integrated. Your mind, which is, I have told you what it is, says something, then your heart says something, then your liver says something. There's no integration in your understanding of any problem. Once you are completely integrated, then you feel the peace. But the best thing that happens, I have seen with Kundalini awakening, is this: that we are all the time thinking so much. Some people really have told me that you cut our throat, but stop this thinking. Especially in modern times, we think much more for everything. We think without thinking we will be lost. And in this ocean of thinking, we are so frightened with the waves. As if you are in the ocean and there are waves around you, you are very much frightened of them. But supposing by any chance you get into a boat, then you can watch these waves which were frightening you and enjoy them. But supposing you become an expert swimmer, you can jump down and save many. In the same way it happens. When Kundalini rises, these waves that we have of our thoughts, which rises and falls, and we are all the time jumping on the cusp of the thoughts, either in the past or in the future. We cannot be in the present. So when she rises, she elongates those thoughts. And there's a space in between, that is the present. And in the present we don't think. But we are aware, much more aware than we were ever. We are in the center. We are in the center. And there it is, our peace. So we have to rise up to that point. Now, as he has told you about all these centers, when the Kundalini passes through them, she nourishes all of them. These centers are responsible for our physical, mental, emotional, also our spiritual being. So she nourishes them, integrates them, and ultimately pierces through our fontanelle bone area and connects us to this all-pervading power of divine love. All the scriptures have described about this. They call it by different names, as I have told you. They call it Ruh. They call it cool breeze of the Holy Ghost. They call it as the all-pervading power of divine love. All kinds of names are there, like Parama Chaitanya, as Nirakar. They call it Alakh Niranjan. All kinds of names they have given it to this all-pervading power, because you can't see. You can't see it, and you can feel it after realization. You can feel it, it exists. For the first time you feel it. You see these flowers, we take them for granted, how beautiful they are. But it's a miracle. Just think how beautifully this Mother Earth has created for you all this. That means she is a living organism. She understands what to produce out of what to do. Who does all this? What is this energy? This is the energy of divine love. When I say love, I mean compassion. It's the compassion of. It's a thing we don't understand, that how can compassion be the truth? But on a little lower level we can understand it. If you love somebody, then you know everything about that person. Take it that way. Compassion is real intelligence, which gives you the, enlightened compassion, the complete idea of the totality. It doesn't talk of one here and one there, but of the totality it has. Through its intelligence it understands what is benevolent for the global peace, what is benevolent for an individual problem. It understands everything because it hasn't got any angularities. It is so pure. And this purity, which is compassion, which is pure intelligence. And once you enter into that realm, you don't have to read anything. You become just very knowledgeable, yourself very knowledgeable. So many powers you have within yourself, of which you are not at all aware. They all start manifesting. I have known people, ordinary artists, coming to Sahaja Yoga have become now world famous artists. Ordinary people who could not even come up on the stage have become great orators. All these qualities which make you so special just start prospering and also manifesting itself. But that's like, you see mother giving chocolate for children. That's not the main thing. The main thing is that you reach a point where you feel you don't have to achieve anything, you have achieved. All that hankering after achievement and all that's finished. Then you enjoy yourself. Your existence you enjoy. You enjoy each and everything that you see. And this enjoyment cannot be described, but is to be experienced and to be felt. I must say in England I worked the most because somehow my husband was posted here. I had a lot of time, and the country where I've really worked very hard is England, no doubt. And I had an advantage of this English language which I could speak also. But I've seen that once English take to something, they take it seriously. But to take them to something is difficult, because too much of mental activity. We have to go humbly beyond this. Because they'll say, I don't like this, I didn't like this, I don't want this. That's not the thing. Who are you? Do you know who you are? I want this, I believe. Our politicians will always say, I believe. Now who are you? Do you know who you are? Muhammad Sahib has said, unless and until you know yourself, you cannot know God Almighty. So why talk of God? First know yourself. That's why Buddha never talked of God. He said, better not talk of God. First know yourself. Because you haven't got yet the capacity to understand God. First of all, you must know yourself. And to know yourself is quite easy these days. I'm myself amazed the way it has worked. In so many nations, the way people have taken to Sahaja Yoga and the way it is spreading, I'm amazed. This is the special time and a special blessing where you are born, when it was to happen. But still, it's a judgment. Again I say it's a judgment. Nobody can force you. You have to judge yourself whether you want it or not. There cannot be any force. But you see, these countries also, European countries, have some ideas. They think it's a cult. I can't understand. How can there be a cult when there are no weapons used, there's no money taken, there's nothing but such peace and such joy, such friendship among so many nations is established. If it is a cult, all right, doesn't matter. I wish there were some more like that. So is the mind, all the time criticizing, finding faults, this and that. But what have you got so far? As a mother, I would say you have to be selfish. Just know that you have to know yourself. And that is what will give you everything that you want. Actually, the wants also change. It's very surprising how after Sahaja Yoga people change. Of course, there are one or two here and there who are not so good. But they will be. They will be. They have certain anchorings, there's still something hanging in their mind, I think. But most of them come up so fast. I'm really amazed how these things are happening in the Western countries. India, of course, no problem, because they have the heritage, they have the knowledge, they have everything, they know what they have to get it. But here, in England, I was really amazed how it has worked out. So seekers are born everywhere. I see now the seeking is so deep and so much maddening for people. Of course, many people have made money out of it. That's something I can't understand. Have made a, marketing thing. You cannot market. You see, this is your evolutionary process. How much money do we give to Mother Earth for giving us these flowers? It's a natural process of evolution which has to take place. In simple words, it is sahaja. Sahaj means spontaneous. Is born with you is this great chance of becoming Sahajogis. Yoga means the union with the divine. You get powers. It's not just to say I am twice born, have some sort of a signboard. But you become. The becoming is the point. You really become. And in that becoming, you get powers. You can raise the Kundalini of others. You can cure people. So many things happen. The greatest thing happens that such a person becomes extremely peaceful, wise, and enjoyable. As Namadeva enjoyed, Gora Kumbhar, they enjoy each other. Then Namadeva went to Punjab, where Guru Nanak, he saw another realized soul. Immediately, he recognized and he said, it's so nice you've come to Punjab now, you better learn Punjabi language and write beautiful poetry as you have done it in Marathi language. So there's such a big book written in Punjabi language by this great poet. We too had great poets here. There's Lewis. Then we have William Blake. William Blake was unknown to us in India. They thought him to be madman or what, I don't know. Actually, after coming to London only, I could discover something about him. Such a great man, such a great poet. But they had to write it in poetry because if they were saying something, they would have been murdered or killed. I don't know what would have happened. So they wrote it in poetry when people couldn't understand much, and they have but paved way for us. They have created this path. For them, the greatest thing is that is working out. Because we are all together. First, so many came, tried, and as you see, build the path, now is complete. Not only that, but also the temple is ready for you to enter in. The whole work of all these great people has helped us. They were never against each other. Never. When they talk of, say, different religions, I can't understand, especially when Moses, Abraham were described by Christ. How can the Jews fight the Christians? I can't understand. Not only, but Muhammad Sahib described about Christ, his mother, much more, with greater respect. than in the Bible. So how can these people fight among themselves? It is to be seen clearly in their books only, if they find the books so authentic. It's in the books written down that they followed all these great people. So there cannot be any divisive thing. That is religion. Religion cannot divide. Actually, religion is within ourselves. And once you get your realization, you suddenly become very righteous. Suddenly. I have seen in this England only people taking drugs and all that. Overnight gave up. Overnight. It's remarkable how in the light of the Spirit they saw what's wrong with them, what was destructive, and just gave it up. Such beautiful people have come out. You won't believe that these were the people had lost all hopes about themselves, and how now they have become such beautiful beings. I'm very proud of them. This lecture of mine should not upset you in any way. If I have said something that makes you feel little nervous or anything, you should not worry, because your Kundalini is all the time there and innocence cannot be destroyed. Of course some clouds come over it, but there is the deity of innocence sitting within you, and everything works out without any problem. Only thing, you have to desire it and ask for it. As I said, it cannot be forced. I respect your freedom, and in your freedom you have to receive your self-realization. It cannot be forced, it cannot be argued, nothing of the kind, because it's a natural process. As I said, it's a natural process, and for the natural process, how can you argue it? So, I would request you, first of all, that those who do not want to have self-realization should leave the hall, because it will take hardly 10 minutes, hardly 10 minutes. But those who don't want should leave the hall. Would be nice, very amicably. I'll be thankful. One thing I have to tell you, that there are mainly two problems with human beings where Kundalini stops. One of them, when you feel guilty. When somebody tells you you are a sinner or something like that, such an idea crops into your head and you think you are a sinner and they are afraid. Many people have told me, we are afraid of you. I said, why? Because we have sinned. I said, that's why I'm here. Why should you be afraid? So first thing is that I love you all, and you should also love yourself, because you are all human beings and at the epitome of evolution. So please give up the idea of feeling guilty. All right, you have done something wrong. Accept it. That's finished now. That's past. I'm talking about the present. That's finished. As far as this moment is concerned, it doesn't exist. So, don't think of what you have done wrong or what you have been worried about and all the time thinking. Also, our modern life is so much full of norms that even a little thing you do, like even if you put the spoon on this side to that side, you feel guilty. Oh, I did like this. If you were really guilty, you would have been in jail, not here. So you must have a very pleasant attitude towards yours. and not to feel guilty. That's what I'm requesting you again and again. Don't feel guilty. Then the second thing is, why I say so? Because this center here, left side, catches. It goes into a very big jeopardy, into a very big problem. And this center can give you spondylitis to minimum, or angina, or all your organs can become very lethargic. So why carry this guilt with you? So give up the guilt. The second simple thing is that please forgive everyone in general. Don't think about them. If you don't forgive, then you go on thinking, oh my goodness, he's troubled me like this, and the person who has troubled you is quite happy while you are just troubling yourself. By that you catch on the agya, which is in the center of this optic chiasma like this. And it's so closed and so constricted that if you don't forgive, it won't open. And how will the Kundalini pass through? So just forgive all of them and don't think about whom you have to forgive. Just say in general, I forgive everyone. Many people say it's difficult. It's a myth. You forgive or don't forgive, what do? Do nothing. But when you don't forgive, then all problems start. So better forgive everyone without even thinking that you have to forgive this person or that person. It's a headache even to think about them. So better not. This center is very important, especially for Christians. You know that how forgiveness was that Christ has manifested, and expected of all of you to forgive. The third thing I have to request is that have full faith in yourself, all of you, that you are all going to get your self-realization. Please have that faith in yourself. If you have that faith, it will work out. In no way condemn yourself or say that how can I get it. In Genova it happened. It was not such a big hall, but quite a big hall. And everybody got realization. And for at least half a minute, they were stunned. They couldn't believe that they can feel this cool breeze of the Holy Ghost. They just couldn't believe it for half a minute. And then they looked very happy and joyous and started smiling and clapping. So it's going to happen to you all, I promise you. But have just faith in yourself. You all can get it. Another thing I have to request is that if you can take out your shoes, this Mother Earth helps us a lot.